Hi friends, welcome to something called science.com. Today we'll talk about the fascinating question of why transition metals are often colored. Have you ever wondered why ruby gemstones are red, rust is orange-brown, or copper patina on statues is green? The answer lies in the fascinating chemistry of transition metals. Transition metals are elements found in the middle section or D block of the periodic table. They include metals like iron, copper, and manganese. One of their most striking features is that, unlike most other elements, their compounds are often brilliantly colored. However, not all transition metals form colored compounds. There are a few exceptions. To understand why transition metals are colored, we need to think about where electrons live around atoms. Electrons don't just orbit randomly, they occupy specific regions called orbitals, which have different shapes and energy levels. Transition metals have a special set of orbitals called d orbitals. There are 5 d orbitals and they can hold up to 10 electrons total, 2 electrons per orbital. Here's where the magic happens. When a transition metal atom bonds with other atoms or molecules, which we call ligands, something interesting occurs. The 5 d orbitals, which normally all have the same energy level, split into 2 groups with different energies. This is called crystal field splitting or ligand field splitting. Some orbitals become slightly higher in energy and others become slightly lower in energy. Think of it like this. Imagine 5 people standing on the same step of a staircase. When the metal forms a compound, it's as if 3 people move down one step and 2 people move up one step. Now there's an energy gap between the 2 groups. Now we get to the exciting part, where color comes from. When white light shines on a transition metal compound, something remarkable happens. White light is actually a mixture of all colors of the rainbow, with each color corresponding to light of a different wavelength and energy. The electrons in the lower energy d orbitals need a specific amount of energy to jump up to the higher energy d orbitals. Think of it like climbing stairs. You just need the right amount of energy to step up from one level to the next. When light of the right color hits the compound, its energy is exactly what the electron needs to make this jump. Which color gets absorbed depends on both the type of metal and what ligands surround it. For example, if the gap between the lower and higher d orbitals requires the same amount of energy as red light carries, then red light will be absorbed. The electron uses that red light's energy to jump from a lower d orbital to a higher one. Once the red light's energy has been absorbed by the electron, that red light is gone. It effectively disappears from the mixture of colors shining on the compound. Here's the key insight. The color we see is not the color that was absorbed. It's the color that was left over. The colors that didn't get absorbed are reflected or transmitted to our eyes, and that's what we perceive. Let's look at a real-world example, rust. In the meantime, you can find a full transcript of this video and a worksheet on our website. Rust is orange-brown and it's something we've all seen on old bikes, cars, or metal fences. But why does rust have this particular color? Rust consists mainly of hydrated iron 3 oxides, formed when iron reacts with oxygen and water over time. When white light hits rust, the iron ions in the compound absorb light from the blue-green part of the spectrum. The energy from this blue-green light is exactly right for electrons to jump between iron's split d orbitals. And the leftover light, which is mostly orange, red and brown wavelengths, is reflected back to our eyes. So why don't other elements show these vibrant colors? Well, that's because they don't have d orbitals with electrons, like calcium, so there's nowhere for electrons to jump. Their d orbitals are completely full, so electrons can jump to higher d orbitals, like with zinc, which is itself a transition metal but an exception to the color rule. Or the energy gaps are too small or too large, like sodium, to match visible light colors. Transition metals sit right in the Goldilocks zone. They have partially filled d orbitals and the energy gaps are just right for absorbing visible light. Non-transition metal compounds can also be colored, but it's for different reasons, such as charge transfer. So how do we predict the color of transition metal compounds? Scientists use something called a complementary color wheel for this. If a compound absorbs red light, it appears green. If it absorbs orange, it appears blue. If it absorbs yellow, it appears violet. And if it absorbs green, it appears red. The color you see is always opposite to the color absorbed on the color wheel. Summing up, the colors of transition metals are a beautiful example of quantum mechanics in action. These colors aren't from pigments or dyes in the traditional sense, rather they're built into the very structure of the material at the atomic level. A big thank you to our Patreon members, you're all awesome and helping out the channel a lot. If you found this video helpful, don't forget to like, subscribe and hit the notification bell for more science content. It really helps the channel out. Let us know in the comments if you have any questions or topics you'd like us to cover next. Thanks for watching and see you in the next video.